Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Scooper of Coop. Let's dive into it. Racing games are always really entertaining. I remember playing Need for Speed as a kid on my Xbox 360 and absolutely loving the game, but sometimes I would get this eerie feeling because of the barren landscapes where you're entirely alone. And this is made way stranger in really old games like Nintendo 64's California Speed. And that's where our first mystery of the day is going to begin. The graphics are really impressive for the 1990s, I can't even lie to you. Like, I was shocked this was a game from 1998. I thought it looked really cool and I would play it today for fun. I'm yapping, bro. It seems like the kind of game that would fill you with nostalgia even though it was made way before I was born. And I presume that's why user JVT Chrome over on Reddit made this post 11 years ago discussing what he found in the game. This billboard in the Nintendo 64 game California Speed. He then leaves us with this single disturbing image, and I'm just gonna show it to you guys and read it for you because this screenshot is wild. In the screenshot, you can see this green, what I think is a Mustang that the player's using, and then in the background, to the right, there's this billboard that's all white with black lettering on it. It looks completely different than everything else surrounding it. The other billboards, for instance, say California Speed on them, but this one is unlike any of those, and it says the following. Sometimes God takes mommies and puppies away, and sometimes, just sometimes, I do. Yeah, seriously, what the heck, dude? That is so weird. The billboard, like I was talking about, is entirely out of place. None of the other things have anything remotely similar. Like I said, they all have the logo on it and are blue. This one's white with black text. Doesn't make sense, right? Even weirder, though, is that the text is written in the kind of stereotypical manner of someone who's completely lost their marbles. It's got weird uppercase and lowercase mixed in there. The grammar doesn't really make sense, and it almost sounds like a child's writing. What the message actually means is somewhat of a dealer's choice scenario, like you can pick it, it can mean whatever. But it's pretty heavily implied that the takes away is referencing Kim, which turns this billboard into a very odd confession letter buried in a really obscure game. Because like I said, this billboard's in the middle of nowhere in some barren part of the map. And even though it's been sitting there, no one noticed it, or at least posted online about it for 15 or 16 years. Meaning that if this was someone's confession of guilt, we have zero chance of finding out who, what, when, where, or why about what took place, and if someone really did get murdered by whoever wrote this message. The best excuse I found for why this billboard's in here is that it was a placeholder until they figured out what they wanted to be on all the billboards, and from what we can see, that was for the most part the California Speed logo, except in this case they seem to have forgotten to switch to that and just left in this weird, murderous, creepy, childlike message. Seems like a terrible excuse, but it really is the best one I've seen because otherwise it's how did this get in here? So we have to presume one of the devs just has a really sick and twisted sense of humor and thought this was funny, which I mean to think if this is all just one giant whoopsie daisy, that would be hilarious, but also what a weird choice to put as your placeholder on a billboard in a racing game. Like I said though, this game's like 30 years old, so there's no way to really refute anything that's been said. It could be the placeholder, or it could be a murder image, or anything in between. Like I said, it's dealer's choice, so I'd be very curious to know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that this is truly referencing something much darker, or is it just some weird gaffe from some devs who forgot to switch up their placeholders? We all remember back in the days when people would dress up as clowns and try and scare people. A lot of really interesting things came out of this time. I learned to trust people less, and there's been this video circulating recently of a clown being shot several times because he tried to scare someone with a gun, which seems like a lot of bad choices were made that evening, but I digress. There's a lot of theories around why all this happened. Some people have also begun to speculate more recently that this was all just a promotion for the film It, which is kind of clever if you think about it, especially since they've never taken credit for it. But eventually that trend did die out. What if I told you that before this all happened in 2016, there was a different set of clown sightings, a much darker and stranger one that we've yet to figure out the answers to. What I'm referring to is a series of images that were taken from a game cam in the middle of a forest by some random dude who we don't know, but we'll get to that later. Well, the images it captured were of your less than typical fauna. Rather than a deer, fox, wolf, coyote, other things that live in the woods, it captured a strikingly large clown in what seems to be a blow-up suit, staring dead into the eyes of whoever's looking at the photo. It really makes no sense. We have two of these images for sure, and one of them is the clown further away, and then as he sees the camera, he's clearly walking closer towards it until he's almost right in front of it like this. Kind of horrifying, really weird, and It begs a lot of questions, but the mystery doesn't stop there at just this weird photo. To figure out what's all behind this, we're gonna have to go to the source material. So what I found out was, if you were to look up this image, reverse image search it, you would find a 2016 article that uses the picture in reference to the earlier clown sightings we talked about, the trend where everyone was dressing up as clowns trying to scare people. Except that's a misconception. The photo is actually way older. We can find a reference to it in Stream and Field in 2010, where a guy was like, oh, I captured this on my game cam, trying to prank everybody. In reality, he's been on record as saying it's not his photo either. He took it from someone else, and he thought it was at least 10 years old at that time. Meaning that there's this photo of a clown stalking in the forest, hunting for people in the early 2000s, way before it was a trend, and we have no idea why. We don't even know where. We don't even know who took this photo. And to this day, is a mystery that leaves me questioning, why was that dude in the woods dressed as a clown, hunting down people, presumably, and staring down cameras? People are really weird is what I'm learning from all these videos. The Juco ATM Phantom. On February 17th, 2004, a 68-year-old former Japanese chemical worker was just going about his day, trying to buy guinea pig food for his grandson, relishing the fact that he got to live life with his awesome family and had a woman he deeply loved. And he was now retired, so he was just doing whatever he wanted with his time. This day, he happened to be spending at Juco, which is essentially a giant Japanese mall, and this dude was just minding his own business, withdrawing his money from the ATM, getting ready to go shop for some guinea pig food, like everyone does. This trip to the Juco was one he'd made thousands of times, and I anticipate that he probably believed it was going to be like every other trip he'd ever taken there. He would withdraw his money from the ATM, go buy what he needed, and then go home and see his awesome family. That was, however, until he noticed as he was stepping away, a woman who had been staring at him apparently the entire time. A little startled and taken aback that he hadn't noticed her, he took a second glance and noticed that she didn't look quite right, and she was also carrying a baby close to her chest. Doing his best to ignore this, he started on his way to the pet food store, but was suddenly accosted by this woman as he tried to rob him of everything he'd just taken out of the ATM. Now, despite being 68 years old, this dude was in pretty good shape and was able to fight this woman off for long enough that the woman realized that she wasn't gonna be able to take this wallet. So she didn't want to risk being caught by the police for trying to rob somebody, so she began to cry out, "Thief, thief!" And of course, everyone presumed the chick with the baby was the one being robbed because she's yelling thief, and the old dude was the thief. Except for this wasn't true. A bunch of men came out of the crowd and came to support her, ripping the old man away and helping her get free. And seeing this as her moment of opportunity, the woman decided to escape as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, 2 police officers guarding the mall came in and began to arrest the man, pinning him to the ground, sitting on him for over 20 minutes. See, these were new officers and they didn't really know what they were doing. So when the serious police arrived, they understood how bad the situation was. And after pinning the old man down, the police officers ripped his hand open that the whole time had been clutching something. And when they ripped it open finally, presuming it was something he had stolen from this woman, they found out it was actually his own bank card that he had just used to get money out of the ATM. So now the officers were like, oh crap, this guy's probably not the guilty party. But it was also too late, because by the time they made the connection between the bank card and the woman was gone, and they'd been sitting on this man for almost 20 minutes. Now, this dude might be in good shape, but he's also 68 years old. So because of this, he kept yelling and telling the officers, please get off, I have a heart condition. But they didn't listen. So these 2 officers ended up giving this old man heart failure, and he passed away the next day in the hospital of brain failure. I won't spend too much time on it, but my prayers and heart really do go out to him and his family because this is awful. Going back to the story though, by the time the serious cops had arrived and realized what the young officers were doing to this dude and the connection between the bank card and, oh my goodness, this guy was the one being robbed, they looked around for this chick, but she was long gone. So they began tapping into all the cameras and getting eyewitnesses and the CCTV, but they found absolutely nothing. Or I should say they weren't able to identify the girl because no one had actually seen her face except for the old man who they just murdered. And all the cameras had gotten only top angles of her looking down, as in you could see the top of her head, her hood. You could see that she was holding something, but you couldn't see what she looked like. And you couldn't really see the baby. But we know later that it is a baby because in one single frame, she looks up and we catch this incredibly eerie glint of what this woman looks like and who she is. Or was, depending on what you believe about this story. You can see through the CCTV footage that her face is not quite right. It's incredibly pale, her eyes are sunken, they seem black. There's no distinguishing features to her face. It looks fake. It looks like she's wearing a mask. However, it's not until we see the reconstruction that things become unbelievably weird. Talk about cliffhangers, right guys? Aren't they the worst? Well, I just want to take this moment to thank you guys for 5,000 subscribers. If you told me a few months ago when I started making these videos that I'd be at 5,000 subscribers, I would have thought you were crazy. And yet, here we are. That's because of every single one of you guys, and I'm really, really, really grateful. Thank you so much. I also want to say that we're doing a giveaway now at 5K subs, a custom Scooper of Coop sweatshirt. It's going to be handmade by my girlfriend, who's a really talented seamstress, and I just wanted to thank her in advance for all of her great work. But in order to be part of that giveaway, make sure to join the Discord and follow me on Instagram. We're going to give one sweatshirt away on each of those platforms to one lucky winner. That being said, though, thank you so much again, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Comment below, and let's hop right back on in to the Juco Phantom. The reconstruction image of the CCTV photo reveals a lot to us. We can tell that something's clearly not right with the way this woman looks, to the point that many believe she was wearing a mask, except for all the eyewitness reports state that no, she wasn't. This was actually what this chick looked like. And then on top of that, people wonder then, is it a death mask, which is a plaster cast of someone's dead face, and then they put it on you and then you wear it, and it's just really, really eerie because there's not many other options besides those two things, unless in fact this woman is really a ghost. Since the Japanese police and Japanese people are very privacy oriented, we actually don't have any of the CCTV footage or any images beyond just these, because it just is anti their culture to release all that information. And because no one has refuted whether or not this is a phantom or a human, it's been a popular topic on a lot of more obscure forums and has even made its way into a couple of videos. However, despite these investigations, nothing has ever come up about what the truth is in this matter. And then in 2011, the statute of limitations ran out on this case, meaning it's no longer going to be investigated by the Japanese authorities, and all the information we have currently online is all the information we're probably ever going to have. And who the Juco Phantom was will be a curiosity forever on the internet. Aron Kunst. That's definitely not how you say that, guys, but every accent for me that isn't English is French. So let's dive in. Everyone can thank Dubziaz for this really weird mystery that we're about to dive into. Over on Instagram, one of my favorite kinds of content is schizogram, and it's truly wonderful stuff, except for sometimes you run across really, really, really weird people who do odd things. And Aron's Kunst is probably the best example of that I've ever seen. Based on the language of the newspaper clippings all around his room in his home, Aron's is definitely a Dutch man. However, his age is a little bit up in the air. My guess is he's pegged at like 60 or 70 years old. His Instagram is filled with just post after post after post. I don't even know how many, but it's countless at this point. But most of these posts, although they get several thousand views, get almost no likes or comments, except for one that blew up to many, many millions of views and got 277,000 likes, which when you see the post is going to make you question what those people are thinking. So for the sake of getting to know Arenz better, let's dive into his most popular video just to get an idea of what he's like. Alright, so I'm going to come out and say it. The mannequins, guys, are weird. This is not the behavior of someone who's on their rocker. This isn't even the behavior of someone who's off their rocker. This is the behavior of someone who doesn't even own a rocker. This is so weird and disturbing. It's another level, dude. The way he whispers into their ears and sizes the mannequins is so strange. Not to mention his little psst into the ear. Oh! The kind of stuff of nightmares. The casual pull of the skull of the mannequin out at the last second of the shot is wild. But I just want to preface that this is the surface level weird for his content, and it's only going to get crazier and crazier as we go. And his intentions are going to become more and more clear. In a post made on December 19th, 2024, we get a look into another one of Aron's rooms, which is lined wall to wall with mannequins in school costumes, all with the no-no regions left open for his enjoyment. And in the background, you can't even make this up, there's just this brain-throbbing music playing. After scrolling through Aren's content, trying to research and find anything other than mannequins, it was like waterboarding, but eventually we got to other stuff, and it was even weirder and revealed some more about his dark proclivities, specifically that they are not quite satiated just by the inanimate objects. In one of his videos, for a very brief moment, you can see the photo of a female from behind in what seems to be a lantern, and she's clearly doing something else, but she's almost entirely naked. And I'm not sure where he got this photo or if she knows it's being taken, but it's weird. Alright, at this point, we know a little bit about what's going on. He's clearly got some issues and definitely a perv. But we haven't had anything that like pushes this beyond the border until now. Continuing on, there's going to be two photos of very young babies. One I even think is 11 weeks old. And they're both photos that seem to be too recent, though, to be of him, especially for pegging him at roughly 60 or 70 years old. So it's going to require us to ask a lot more questions about what is exactly happening. And then after, and I can't make this up, it's almost laugh-worthy. In the exact same video where he shows photos of two random babies, he then cuts to his shoes on the kitchen counter, and the shoes are filled with handmade stuffed animals as well as South Park plushies. Gets weirder though, because in each of these shoes is a phallically shaped carrot. Or two. Yeah, I have no idea what this means, if there's some giant symbolism behind it, but he's very clearly choosing these carrots because they look like ding-dongs. Ding-dong, ding, 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 dong, dong, dong. And to make this whole video even weirder, it's accented by one of the most beautiful pieces of classical music ever. And it doesn't even fit the context, and I'm not gonna lie, is almost partially ruined for me now. The comments though are what are gonna make this video even worse, because somehow it's possible this actually can in fact get worse. One commenter who clearly has seen the other creepy content this gentleman has posted asked the question we all want to know the answer to: what happened to that baby? And Aron responded simply by saying, he survived. Bro, what? Survived what? You? As we discussed earlier, Aron likes his mannequins and he likes them wearing nothing. But compared to what he does with Barbie dolls, those mannequins are essentially modestly dressed. In a number of his videos, he shows us his collection of Barbie dolls, which are all stripped and left in poses, staring at the camera with a vacant expression, half begging for help. This is all so bizarre, and like we talked about earlier, there are these images of children which could theoretically be him as a baby, but are doubtful because, like I said, I think they're too recent to be of him. But where this mystery is going to go even further is that there's an image of another child that I found on his account that is most certainly not him, and I'm going to assume he never had kids, just based on some obvious factors. So now we're gonna have to ask ourselves who this child is that he has pinned up on his wall. On top of this, the image is followed by a newspaper clipping of a quote. The quote reads as follows: Leven zonder humor is zeer, zegt Helga, which when translated from Dutch roughly means life without humor is boring, Saint Helga. I dare say that is one of the eeriest captions one could attach to a random photo of a little boy who you have no connection to, but it's gonna get weirder. So we're gonna have to ask ourselves then this really dark question: who is this boy then? However, the answer to that question remains elusive because Aron himself is doubtful to tell us, and reverse image searching the photo reveals nothing to us. Going back to the original Reddit post, a user made a comment stating that this guy had actually been in the news before in the Netherlands. The article that was published about him remained in the Netherlands and got very, very little attention. Additionally, the article itself reveals almost nothing about who he is and doesn't even cover any of the creepy stuff going on. The article is actually focused on the weird Red Bull cans he taped to the side of his house. Additionally, there's very little mention of the mannequins and nothing about the creepy little boy photos. And in the video interview, you can see that he clearly cleaned up his house a lot for this interview, or things got considerably worse in between the year of the interview and today when these things were being posted. So we know very little about this guy, and we have no answer to the questions that are being posed for us, especially his really dark questions like, who are these children? A lot of other commenters seem to feel the same way that you and I might, that this is a really, really weird dude who's clearly up to something not very good, right? Except for the fact that there is also a subset of users who apparently believe this to be art, and also believe that this is something that is beautiful and calming. I don't get why. This is not art, this is crazy, but I digress. What really alarms me though is that there are people who consistently follow this dude's account and praise him for this work, treating him as some master artist. But outside of the children's photos, what might be most disturbing to me about all this is the fact that millions of people have seen his videos and hundreds of thousands have liked them. That just doesn't make sense to me, and it seems really, really wrong. All in all though, in terms of conclusions, I've got nothing for you except for that this dude clearly has some issues. But another interesting factoid that I noticed when watching through his videos is that he has an obsession with the candy Peeps. I could never understand why, because Peeps are pretty disgusting. But an interesting fact is that they're associated with the Easter holiday, which Christians celebrate as the commemorating holiday for the resurrection of the Lord and Savior. And then in the same vein, and often in the same videos, he will show this little Satan head that he has. So we have both the representation of pure good and pure evil in the exact same videos. Weird, I don't know what it means, but there's definitely something odd going on, and maybe there's even some satanic elements to this thing that we're not even aware of. That, however, shall be the note we end on this evening. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would really be grateful if you smash the like button, as the kids say. No, cringe. Before you leave though, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, drop a sub, and ring that bell if you're interested, and share this with your grandmother. I'm sure she would like it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time though to watch this video, and I sincerely, like I said, hope you enjoyed. Also, make sure to join the Discord and follow me on Instagram so you can be a part of the giveaway if you're interested in that. Also, it's just a great place to connect with me. I'm there every day talking to y'all. And thank you guys for everyone who has joined. It's been a blast getting to know you guys. Also, once again, thank you for 5,000 subscribers. It is a blessing, and I'm super grateful for each and every one of you. It's really cool to think about how much we've grown in such a short time, and moving forward, I cannot wait to see where we go. That all being said, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see each of you guys in the next one.